He isolated me so slowly, I didn't realize I was losing my friends until they were already gone. When I first met him, everything else faded into the background. He had that kind of presence charming without trying too hard, confident in a way that made you lean in, and always protective, like the kind of guy who'd never let anything touch you, good or bad, without going through him first. He noticed me at a mutual friends get together. I was mid conversation when he cut in, smooth, unapologetic, completely unbothered by the usual rules of social etiquette. I should have found it rude. Instead, I was hooked. There was something magnetic about the way he looked at me, like I was the most interesting person in the room. We started dating almost immediately. It wasn't gradual or cautious, it was fast, intense, and all consuming. He texted constantly, always wanted to talk, wanted to know where I was, who I was with, how I was feeling. At first, it felt like care, like someone was finally paying attention the way I always wished someone would. I mistook that intensity for love. My friends were excited for me at first. They met him a couple times. Everyone was polite, but I could feel the shift. The quiet glances, the short responses when I gushed about him. Later, one of my closest friends told me, "He's got a vibe. Just be careful, okay?" I laughed it off. Told her she was being overprotective. Jealous, maybe. I mean, it wasn't like I hadn't noticed the way he rubbed some people the wrong way, but to me, that just made it feel like we were in our own little world. Us against everyone else. Soon, things started changing. He didn't like big group hangs. "I just want you to myself," he'd say. "Can we just stay in?" At first, it was sweet. Cozy nights in, ordering takeout, watching whatever he wanted. But then it became the norm. When I'd mention meeting the girls, he'd sigh or make some offhand comment. "You really want to waste time with them? Thought we had plans." Or worse, he'd start a fight right before I was supposed to go out, so I'd be too drained or upset to go. Then he'd be extra sweet afterward, and I'd tell myself he just missed me too much. He planted little seeds. You ever notice how your friends talk down to you? They act like they know what's best for you all the time. It's condescending. And I started to believe him. I started pulling back. I skipped brunches, stopped replying in group chats as much. I let messages sit unread. I told myself they were being judgmental, that they didn't understand him, that maybe they didn't understand me anymore either. In my head, they were the ones changing. They weren't happy for me, didn't support me. I didn't stop to question why people I'd trusted for years were all uncomfortable with the same person. Instead, I pushed them away bit by bit without even realizing I was doing it. By the time things started to feel wrong, I had already made it clear I'd chosen him, and I didn't think I could turn back. It started small, barely noticeable at first. A missed movie night here, a skipped group hangout there. The narrator's friends felt the shift before they could name it. Conversations got shorter. Plans kept getting canceled. When they finally did talk, the narrator sounded different, distant, defensive, like someone who always had to explain or justify their partner's latest outburst or strange opinion. Then came the confrontation. It wasn't dramatic, just a calm, serious talk. Maybe at a cafe or outside someone's apartment. One friend, maybe the blunt one, said it first. "We're worried. He's not good for you." Another added, "He's isolating you. You don't even see it happening." They listed examples. The way the ex talked down to the narrator in front of them. How he always had an excuse for why the narrator couldn't go out. How he subtly insulted their closest friends, planting little seeds of doubt. But the narrator was already primed to reject it. Why? Because the ex had already gotten ahead of this. He'd been laying the groundwork for weeks. He'd say things like, "They don't really want you to be happy. They just can't handle someone who calls them out. They've always looked down on you. I'm the only one who actually supports you." So when the confrontation came, the narrator's walls were already up. Their brains scrambled to protect what felt like the only stable thing in their life, this intense, passionate relationship. The moment the narrator chose the ex over their friends wasn't just emotional, it was messy. Maybe it happened after a long fight between them all. Voices raised, one friend storming off. Or maybe the friends gave an ultimatum: "If you keep choosing him, we can't keep doing this." The narrator hurt, angry, feeling cornered, snapped. Fine, then don't. And just like that, the wedge turned into a break. The narrator walked away, thinking they were standing up for love. Eh. In reality, they were walking into a smaller, lonelier world with only one person left in it, and he was the one holding the strings. It didn't happen overnight. That's the thing about losing people, you don't always notice it until they're already gone. At first, I just wasn't included in the small stuff. A movie night here, a last-minute dinner there. I'd see it on their stories the next day, everyone laughing, smiling, tagging each other, and I'd scroll past quickly, pretending it didn't bother me. I told myself they just assumed I was busy, that I'd said no enough times, so they stopped asking. And maybe that was true. Maybe I'd trained them to leave me out. The group chat that once buzzed with memes, check-ins, random chaos went quiet. For me, anyway, messages that used to get replies in seconds suddenly sat on red. No follow-ups, no emojis, no LOL, just silence. Then came my birthday. No plans, no text at midnight like before. No surprise dinner or cupcakes from my best friend. I kept checking my phone, telling myself it must be a mistake. They must have planned something later. Maybe they were waiting for the weekend. But nothing came. He noticed I was quiet that day, asked if everything was okay. I told him I didn't hear from anyone. He shrugged. Well, now you know who your real people are. He said it like it was a fact, not a red flag. He took me out to dinner that night, just the two of us. He was extra sweet, paid the bill, made me laugh, even brought flowers. And I clung to that because what else did I have? I told myself this was enough, that maybe I was growing up, and growing apart was just part of it. That friends came and went, but love like this? Rare. But even in the quiet moments, when I was lying awake and he was asleep beside me, I felt it, that gnawing sense of something missing, of space where people used to be, of laughter that wasn't mine anymore. I told myself it was fine, that I didn't need them, that I chose this. But every lie I told myself only echoed louder in the silence they left behind. At first, the narrator tells themselves it's just stress. That's why he checks their phone. That's why he gets weird when they wear something too noticeable or laugh too loudly around other people. But it escalates fast. Suddenly, every friend is a threat. Every outing is an argument. If the narrator wants space, he calls it abandonment. If they disagree, he calls it disrespect. He keeps score after everything I've done for you, twisting every conversation into guilt. Then come the lies, small ones at first, stories that don't add up. Odd messages on his phone he claims are just work. The narrator catches him in a few, but each time he gaslights hard. You're just paranoid. You're trying to trap me in something I didn't do. This is why no one else can handle you but me. And the worst part? They start to believe him. Still, doubt creeps in. Late at night, alone, the narrator replays past arguments this time, seeing the red flags they once explained away. They think of their friends, their faces during that last fight, the concern, the disappointment, the people who tried to pull them out before it was too late. Now it feels like it is too late. They feel ashamed, embarrassed that they didn't listen, afraid that if they reach out, all they'll hear is, "We told you so." So they stay quiet, isolated, regretful, stuck in a relationship that's rotting from the inside out, but still pretending it's salvageable. Because admitting the truth would mean facing everything they gave up to protect the lie. The breaking point didn't sneak up on me, it exploded. By then, things had already shifted. The relationship wasn't intense and romantic anymore. It was claustrophobic. He watched everything I did, picked fights over nothing, controlled what I wore, how I spoke, who I followed online. I felt like I was always walking on eggshells. Still, I stayed. Because leaving felt like admitting I'd been wrong about him, about everything. Then it happened. I found out he cheated. And not just with some random girl. No, he chose someone close enough to cut deeper. My coworker, someone I'd invited to our home, someone I had trusted, even confided in when things got rough with him. I found the texts late one night when his phone lit up while he was in the shower. I wasn't even looking for anything, but there it was. The words, the photos, the emoji she used that I used to use with him. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't cry right away. I felt numb, cold. My fingers went tingly. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the betrayal of it all. The months of being gaslit. The friends I lost defending him. The nights I stayed home while he was out with her. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He just shrugged and said, "Things haven't been the same between us. You've been distant." Like it was my fault. Like I deserved it. And then, to top it off, he had the audacity to say, "I thought you'd understand. You don't even talk to your friends anymore." That was the final crack. Something inside me just shattered. The fight drained out of me. I packed a bag that night, didn't tell him where I was going, just walked out and didn't look back. I wish I could say it felt empowering, but it didn't. It felt hollow, like the bottom fell out of my life. No one to call, no couch to crash on, no one to text. You won't believe what just happened. I had burned every bridge to keep him warm, and now I was freezing, in the wreckage of my own choices. I spent nights in a cheap rented room with nothing but a charger, a blanket, and too many thoughts. I replayed every moment how I ignored my friends, how I defended him even when it hurt. I didn't just lose a boyfriend, I'd erased my entire support system for someone who never cared. He took everything, and I let him. It takes days to type the first message and even longer to hit send. The narrator scrolls through old chats, seeing timestamps from months ago. Inside jokes, birthday wishes, then silence. They finally choose one or two friends, the ones who had once felt like family, and send a message. Not perfect, but honest. Something like, "I'm sorry. You were right. I didn't see it then, but I do now. I miss you." The responses come slowly. One replies bluntly, "Took you long enough?" Short. No warmth. Maybe they leave it on read after that. Maybe they say they're glad the narrator's safe, but they're not ready to talk. It stings, but the narrator understands. They vanished. They pushed everyone away. The second friend is softer, but guarded. "I'm glad you reached out. I was really worried about you." But there's a distance now, careful words, polite tone, no offers to meet up. They ask how the narrator is, but don't share much about themselves. Like the closeness they once had is gone, replaced by polite concern instead of real connection. And that's when it sinks in. The damage wasn't just emotional, it was relational. Trust broke. The day the narrator walked away from their friends for someone toxic. And now, even though they're trying to crawl back, some doors don't swing open again. They thought escaping the relationship would fix everything. But now they're standing in the wreckage and realizing they're not just lonely because of him. They're lonely because of what they sacrificed to stay with him. And rebuilding that, that's going to take more than an apology. It didn't happen all at once. There was no movie moment montage of recovery, just slow, quiet days that blurred into each other. Some days I barely moved, others I overcompensated, cleaned everything, made lists, read self-help blogs like gospel. But eventually I got tired of running in mental circles, of letting him still live rent-free in my head. So I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I called a therapist. The first few sessions were brutal. I talked in circles, blamed myself, cried about things that felt embarrassingly small. But over time, I started to untangle the mess. Not just what happened with him, but what was happening in me, the parts that tolerated too much, said yes too easily, ignored gut feelings because I didn't want to be too much or too sensitive. Turns out I'd spent years confusing control with love and silence with peace. I also started journaling, nothing polished, just raw, angry, sad, reflective dumps of everything I'd bottled up. I wrote about the friends I missed, the birthdays I skipped, the nights I knew something felt off but said nothing. And slowly, as I saw my own words pile up, I began to recognize a version of myself I hadn't seen in a while. Not broken, just buried. Somewhere in the middle of all this, people started showing up again. Not the old crew, not yet, but new faces. A woman I met in a bookshop who invited me to a community event. A coworker I used to dodge in the break room who turned out to be quietly supportive and sharp as hell. None of it was instant, and I didn't let anyone in quickly. I was slower now. I paid attention to how people spoke about others, how they handled no, how they made me feel when I was quiet. This time, I asked questions not just about them, but about myself. Why did I feel drawn to certain personalities? Why did I let charm override consistency? What did I need, not just from a partner, but from myself? And most importantly, I learned boundaries. Not the kind you announce dramatically, but the kind you practice quietly. Not answering every text right away. Saying no without guilt. Leaving when something felt off instead of waiting for proof. I wasn't trying to become cold or hard, I just didn't want to bleed out every time someone touched a wound. Growth wasn't glamorous, it was boring sometimes, lonely, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I was choosing me not out of bitterness, not to prove anything, just because I finally understood my worth. It happens by chance at a grocery store, maybe, or on a street they used to walk together. The narrator sees the X again. He looks the same, but smaller somehow. Not physically, just deflated. Like the power he once held over them is gone, and he knows it. He tries a smile, maybe even makes some smug comment. Didn't think I'd see you again. But it doesn't land. The narrator just looks at him steady, calm, unbothered. There's no rush of anger, no panic, just a strange, clean quiet inside. Maybe even a little pity. I'm not scared of you anymore, they think. I'm not yours to hurt. They walk away. No dramatic confrontation, no need for closure because they already gave it to themselves. A few weeks later, one of the old friends, maybe the sympathetic one, texts, "Coffee?" It's simple, tentative, but it's a start. The narrator shows up nervous, unsure if it'll be awkward, but they laugh again genuinely this time. The trust isn't fully back, but there's room to rebuild. And in that moment, something finally clicks. I thought I had to choose between love and friendship. Turns out, real love never makes you choose. They're still healing, still rebuilding, but this time, they're not doing it alone.